Um, and I've gone in and out of, in other words, I feel I've been aware of it, which I always am, but um, still a lot of, indecision and strife about things. But I think I've handled better than usual. There was like a 2 hour bizarre time frame yesterday where all the buses in town suddenly didn't work. Like they weren't allowed to go in for some security thing or something. And I decided to, anyway, the bus turned around and I decided to run into town and walk. And it was like quiet streets. It was very bizarre. I felt like I'm in a weird dream.
Yeah.
And I was like kind of panicky and running, and I was like, should I go back? Should I not? It was just very, very intense. And then I came home and the whole 2.5 hour bubble like ended. And I came home and I'm like, whoa, I was like in a weird nightmare dream. Not
Mm.
terrible nightmare, just a weird dream. Just so I go in and out of these weird spaces. And I can't always be in that calm space. But my sister did call me and say, hey, you handled that day. My birthday was one of the days, and she's like, you handled it much better than in the past. Like, you're able to meet
Okay. Yeah.
different people and accept, like, she's like, I came over and brought you like weird little foods, and you just said thank you, and we're happy. Like, she's like, you used to be much more touchy about the, like, you couldn't,
Yeah.
like, it was so raw for you. And I really see, she's like, I was so proud of you. Like, I don't know, I see progress. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
think she just
So,
felt better about her. Sorry, you were going to interrupt. I'm going to let you today. Go ahead, Vince.
thank you. I was just going to say, do you get that the import of somebody else noticing means it's pretty big? Like frequently, things can be quite different, but they're on the inside and not noticeable by other people. Well, the fact that your sister noticed, that shouts out something quite significant to me anyway. What about you?
Yeah, I think so. She's not the most like sensitive person. So if she notices and actually says something
Yeah.
also, then it's a big thing. Although, my mind downplayed it. It's like, well, she's not really saying about my progress. She's just kind of relieved that I accepted her offerings and was like, oh, you've grown so much. And what she really means is, I'm happy that you were, I came with some weird little gifts and you made me feel good or something like that. In other words,
Yeah,
that you
good
were
stuff.
able
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Does she know you're going through this stuff?
Um, I tell her broadly, she doesn't really understand most of what I do. So I'm like, yeah, I've been doing these really cool Zooms online. She's like, about what? I'm like, don't know how to explain it. About life or meditation, I'll say something like
Yeah,
this.
that's a tricky one, isn't it? How do you
Yeah.
explain it? Yeah. Mm.
Um, yeah. To one sister, I started to try and explain, but she's like, what? So, I leave it. But
Yeah. Unless they're into it themselves, it's impossible for them to get an idea of what about anything about it really.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, but anyway, so that's big time. That's significant. Hmm. The the unfamiliarity of it the, certainly highlights. I don't know. I would describe it as a kind of a psychedelic experience. Where like you're in a dream in that. Um, there's a oh, I don't know how to put it. There's a kind of a floating observation of what's going on even in yourself. Does that when you said about it being well, you talked about an experience that was dreamlike or nightmare-like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it has a kind of a tinge of unreality about it.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times things feel surreal. Not a lot, but I do have those experiences definitely. Um, which is part of my whole search here since I'm, very young. Like, what is this? And what is this place? And what are all these weird states I go in and out of? And
Yeah, yeah. So do you get that this stuff started for you before you even remember? This stuff started for you when you were, let's say, 2 years old, or probably even before that. But like you can't never. It's weird how we don't remember our experiences as a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old, but it's not until we get to about five that memory starts to kind of hang around a bit. Do you imagine that you were always,
You mean wondering about the nature of reality?
yeah, triggered
It
to look
could
at things
be.
differently to most people? Yeah,
It could be because my mother said like in preschool I would like observe the kid. Like I would watch a lot, and I was also very rambunctious. I would play, um but also, yeah, when I was 8 or 9, I was already thinking about this stuff. Hey Tim.
mm.
Um so yeah.
Yeah. It seemed. I mean, to me, it seemed really weird that the other kids didn't take any notice of, or put any importance on, or even recognize, that they were so involved at the surface level that it seemed like they just had no idea that there was a level underneath that.
Yeah, I guess for me it's like, why is no one wondering what the heck this all is? Everyone's like walking around with briefcases and serious faces and rushing somewhere, and I'm like, but why and what is it like?
Yeah,
So
yeah. So what's been your thoughts about progress? When are you still hanging on to the idea that progress is something to be recognized and valued?
um yes, I am. Um it's very hard for me. I mean, I was recently started doing this health coaching stuff, and one of the most important things is recognizing progress. But with this stuff, as I say to you, I sometimes wonder if it's real progress or just the regular ups and downs of life. Um and I guess I think it's kind of both. Like, it is regular ups and downs. I have had all kinds of moments my entire life, but I think it is accelerated, and I think there's a more of a, I don't know. I'm hoping there's more of an acceptance, a maturity, a something. In other words, I hope the
Mm,
system won't keep on going off on as many tangents and dysregulation, and kind of just mm, come back to itself and not keep chasing these things. In other words, the more I hear also from you guys and people who have, different people on the meetings also that have gone to the other side or whatever you want to call it. Um,
I like that one.
um,
Yeah, you're on the other side there, Tim.
about like there's no person on top of the Himalayas that knows more, or that like no one's going to tell me the answers, or like I'm not doing it all wrong. In other words, like all this kind of stuff, hearing it from different people is a little bit reassuring, and a little bit stops the constant panic of, oh my god, someone somewhere must know, and I'm doing this all wrong, and like I cannot trust myself at all, and this is ridiculous. That crazed panic of I
Yeah.
have to find out like the deep stuff because I'm
Mm,
clearly not getting it or doing it or qualified. So
yeah.
the more I hear that from people I respect and hear that they've awakened, and they say, no, there is no guide that you have to travel 3 days by goat, to Peru. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, so that's helping.
Uh,
And
Tammy, can I interrupt? Sorry, I'm interrupting you because of the topic you just brought up.
goats in Peru, go.
Well, just prior to that, really,
Mm.
not specifically that. So, serendipitously, I was just before this, when I woke up quite early, I was listening to a Vince meeting from the archives very early on. And this whole topic came up. I think most of the call was about the getting there idea. And the measurement or the folly of measuring success or failure, or maybe even just like landmarks, milestones, and that sort of thing. And it was really, I identify with everyone on the call who was saying that prior to how I am now, and I can still have moments of thinking of comparison is all it is with the past. How can it not be, that? And just the folly of that whole thing. And the one thing that stuck out for me was how we read these books, and we go to meetings, and I say I'm going to say I listen to these people's stories, or what they tell us about, what they're willing to reveal about the whole story. And it just seems either a fantastical story, like this amazing trip they've been on their whole lives, and then suddenly everything was great. That's the polished version of the story. I don't know if we hear the whole thing, but in my naivety and gullibility, I suppose, I would buy into this and think, I want to be like that. I mean, wouldn't it be ideal? And you even had some of them who, when asked, say, "Is this abiding? Is this, call it a state, abiding there?" And I know one particular teacher said, I would say 98% of the time. He was like quite categorical about this, and I thought then, that must be amazing. What a thing that must be. But coming here, I'm picking up on this bit that I just came in on when I joined the call. I think coming here has been a real, I was to say awakening, but it's also been very grounding. The whole thing has become so not simple, no, down to earth. Actually, that's grounding, isn't it? There's no esoterica involved. There's no other, and this is a minor digression, forgive me. I find it easier in real time to communicate with people. I'm okay with forums, but I don't know what it is. But because this is, and even listening to a recording, because there's a different sort of flow to this, and it's a dialogue, and there's no guy or woman or other on a platform, there's this interaction. I think that's what, and coupled with the as much honesty as one can, self-honesty as one can muster, um, it's just not done it for me. It just suits me more than anything else I've found. This is just from where I'm at, because I was thinking about your sharing. I think it was last Wednesday. My memory is not great. And again, it was really just, and I don't mean to put it quite this way, an exaggerated version of what I was like. I mean, these things are thematic, aren't they? There's the job. We have sort of areas of our lives that seem to be sort of we sort of zoom in on, and just really the stories around them, and how I should have done this, I could have done that. They didn't do that. Why didn't they do that? And if this had happened, then that, I'll shut up now.
That was great, Tim. Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with what you're sorry.
No. You agree?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying about reading versus talking to people, because it's so easy to misunderstand or just go into your head when you're reading stuff. You're like in your own hole of ricocheting your own thoughts against
Yeah.
this new idea, and it can do something, but it's not the same as talking to people who have real understanding. And
Mm.
also of how to live it in day-to-day life, as you were saying, the practical thing. In other words, okay, so I realize there's silence between the thoughts and underneath everything. Now what? There's panic that arises, there's decisions, there's things that seem important. So what do we do with that? Like it's like
Mm.
seemingly real issues like children and how you relate to
Yeah,
people and work and all this stuff.
yeah.
And so it's trying to understand that slowly.
I've got two children's stories, if you that are current. So yesterday, our two lads are staying here. One's just moved back because of circumstances. They're both working. They're going off in a minute, so I might have to shuffle around a bit to accommodate. But well, one's going off. So what happened? I was triggered yesterday breakfast time for the first time in a while. Well, the first one where it really went whoa for about 5 minutes. You know, there are ones that say, "Oh yeah, that," but this was I was in this freeze state of the grind. Anyway, what happened was, yeah. So I don't know which fetter it is. I'm not really au fait with that model, but it's the one where routines, rituals, rites and rituals. Is that three? I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
Where
that's
where
true. Yeah,
where where your commonplace habits are sort of somehow changing, and like my wife and I used to sit and have these chats over breakfast, and she'd just come in with a coffee. Thank you. That's all right. They can't see you. That's okay. Thank you. um, so yeah, the dynamics have changed, obviously, and you know it's not a big deal. But there were four of us at the breakfast table, and Lenny, the youngest, was having a bit of trouble with. It seems to be the way these days. Middle management at work, like seeming to take the piss a bit, you know, advantage of him. And he's a real stoic. He sticks at it and does the thing. And he said, today I just don't feel like going, and I don't feel like going back at all. He's had this job about 2 months, and one of the best guitar shops there's a chain of them in Britain, in the London branch. And, you know, what you think would be an ideal position for someone who's a musician, a guitarist. He said, it's all about the sales, Tim. I said, yeah, isn't that the way of things? It's targets. They won't even let me now choose my days off. My mates are saying, "What are you doing? Where are you?" He said, "I'm really thinking about just leaving." And then this is the trigger thing. So I don't need to go into other stuff. So his mum said, "Don't leave before you have something in place, because you've done that, haven't you, me? And look what happened. And you've been really rash." And then there was other sort of add-on bits to that, you know. Um, and I sort of thought, whoa, you know, and I had that feeling because that has happened. I have been like that. I've been quite, in the past, reactive and rebellious and that sort of thing. I'm not doing this shit sort of thing. And for a minute, I was in this weird freeze, shame, I guess, if you had to put a word in it, sort of shame or something, position. And I just sort of breathed into it, and their conversation went on. And I said, I'm just going to leave the room for a minute. I could look at something on the computer because I had to sort of just relocate myself, even though it was a few yards away, just for a moment, and then come back, and it had gone because I just let it be there. I had to leave just for a moment. But this is my point. In the past, that would have been a whole day gone. I'd have been in that mood. That would be it. Why does she fucking bring that up every time? Not that there's an every time. That's again the exaggeration part of the story. And yeah, I was like that, wasn't I? I fucked up lots of jobs. I've never stuck at anything. Maybe it's ADHD, yeah, or a diagnosis a psychiatrist made when I was 28, saying your son, my dad sent me, is particularly prone to stress, and would only be suited to low-level jobs like, and this is the thing, basket weaving. Like, you know the term basket cases. Now, it's easy to see a linear cause and effect. I mean, I don't think I'm quite a basket case now, and I probably wasn't then. I wasn't in good shape at all, but um, I wonder how much that influenced a vulnerable person. You know, I'm not
Mm.
saying, oh, that bloody psychiatrist, I'd have been whatever I'd have been if he hadn't said that. But these things go in, but anyway, to stop now is that life just unfolded anyway. Here I am, roof over the head, meals. This is it. And I thought, if this is as good as it gets, also having heard some of the really deep traumatic stories on the earlier Vince calls, like people are howling in a cathartic way on a call. And I'm sure that, at a cellular level is here somewhere. And the stuff that they were going through because of it and have been for years, I thought, man, it's all right, you know? So there we are. That was a little segue into, you mentioned kids. I did that bit.
Mm.
Yeah. So quite beside the point that you made that once it would have been a whole day and now it was only a few minutes.
Yeah.
Do you get that? Of course, we can still be triggered, and I would describe that as a defensive reaction,
Yeah, it certainly
right?
was. Yeah.
To
Yeah,
look
yeah.
at,
Oh, yeah.
I've got to protect this self, kind of
Absolutely.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
But those things will stay dormant unless they get triggered. And when they get
Mm.
triggered, they're seen. They probably, I mean, that particular one, it might have a little bit of juice to it next time it comes back, but the time after that, you'll just kind of laugh at it. It'll be,
Yeah.
because it's been triggered and seen. So the reason that it got you this time was probably because it hadn't been seen since.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And if we're measuring, it's a pretty deep and ongoing one, like a not good enough, like a sort of core belief beneath all of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
So
see,
yeah.
yeah. Sorry. I was going to say, there's a lifetime of conditioning behind that, probably
Yeah,
from
yeah.
parents and then wife and from yourself. You take over from your parents,
Oh
giving
yeah, yeah.
yourself hell. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
But here's another one that I want to line up, and that occurred to me a bit earlier when you were talking. If we lined up 500 people that um, I don't know how to put this, that are awake, not that claim to be awake as such, but 500 people that have actually seen through the illusion of self, etc., and integrated from that, there wouldn't be one single one of them that would be the same as anybody else. Everybody would have their own version of that
Mm.
experience, and it would continue to be unique in that thing. It's like I just, again, I was in a shopping centre today and just tickles me pink and blown away by everybody is different, all shapes and sizes that you can imagine of people walking around, and yet they're all people. And
Mm.
and if we just took a subset of them who are awake, they're just as unique as all of these people. They're all different. They all have different experiences and so on.
Yeah.
Finding stuff that was in common with them, we have to get a bit simplistic. We have to just talk about it at a superficial level in order to find stuff that's the same, but it's not as soon as we
Mm.
look at it. Yeah.
Mm. And much as, I mean, my wife and I have been married for, I think, I should know exactly, 36 years. I sometimes think to myself, I can't obviously know what it's like to be you. I can I only have past references of our interactions and have my story about you. What else could it be? But
Mm,
it's a pretty good, so it's a varied story, and it's just, but I can't, the way she processes stuff without need for counsel and stuff, and then arrives at her own resolution and say, yeah, I feel better now. And, she doesn't do any of this stuff, but she's on board largely
mm,
with it.
mm,
We have things about free will and who cares, but they're not really important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But this amazing ability to just be very quiet, go within, not, and that's it. I thought that's the way I'm in awe of that in a way.
Mm,
That's great, but I can't
mm,
know, I can't know. But people, yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
this is the thing. There are a lot of people around, especially older people, and of course there are a lot who don't fit into this description, but those who have, let's say, developed wisdom, or who have worked out how to process things differently, So there are a lot of people who are awake who wouldn't know about any of this stuff, or at least a version of awake or partly awake, or none of that makes any sense, but you get what I mean. There are people who are
yeah,
quite together and they
yeah,
don't know anything about this stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of this, or some of this, could be just having lived this long and had some hard knocks, which is the wisdom part of just getting older.
Mm,
I meet people like that, and they're quite stoic, Yeah.
mm.
So there's an element of that, yeah,
Yeah. And there's a lot of people who are the opposite, who in fact
yeah,
are falling apart inside, but are very
yeah,
good actors, and would convince the world that they're quite together when in fact they're not. Yeah.
yeah. And I've noticed that they tend to be more, should we say, performative about it. That there's
Yes.
that it's like they're on. Someone's pressed the on button, or right, take three, you're on. And it's, yeah, I did this, and yeah, so and so's given me that. It's a kind of slightly hyped vibe.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
always, but there's this kind of, you can feel it. Yeah, for sure. Mhm.
So what's your reaction to all of that, Tammy? How did you, what do you, what happened inside you?
Um, yeah, I can relate to some of that. I think relate to the triggers maybe lasting less time, for sure. And yeah, I have a sister like that who she it just is much wiser than me. She'll suffer for a few months with something and then she'll be like, well, I need to change my thought pattern about that, and now things are easier. Like she's just incredibly, I think she's fantastic. In other words, she just is very grounded. She's not into anything like this, but she just looks at life with clear, open eyes, and she has an honesty and
Hmm.
integrity about her. And it's she doesn't realize how fabulous she is, but she's
Yeah.
just fabulous. I don't meet many people like this, and
Yeah.
so she doesn't need to do this. She's maturing and open and honest, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you might describe that and as somehow somebody who never became dependent on the illusion of a self to run the show, or at least to that extent, to an extent.
She still feels that she needs to check in with herself, get to know herself better. Like she's waking up to all kinds of things like that of being just people pleasy and just outward looking to others
Yeah.
and tending to them rather than herself. There's a lot of processes going on like that, but it's
Yeah, but
yeah,
to do that, she's not got a defensive thing activated. She's not looking to uphold
no,
the ego, so to speak. Yeah.
no, no, it's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll suffer with like decades with something and be totally confused. And she'll be like a few months and be like, that doesn't make sense. Why would I cause more suffering? Like she just
Yeah.
she's like, I
Yeah.
wish you would get over this already. Like she just yeah. I guess the two other things I wanted to ask you about today is one, I got some health scan news about my bone density from 2 years ago. And in other words, compared to 2 years ago, like it's more rapid than I thought, like different health stuff. And I don't know. I guess that brings up the usual panic of all the things about I thought like moving out on my own 2 years ago and having and working on myself so much and stuff like that, the the less panic, although I don't know if there is less panic, but like would bring less inflammation, would
Yeah,
bring health, which would bring like improved parameters and stuff. And I'm still hoping for that. I'm still working towards it, but it's like brings up all the stuff about health and all my life decisions, my attitudes, what is creating like, can I get to a place where I'm calm and creating better health and just panicking around all my actions, all my life decisions, etc.
yeah,
So it's bringing it up more strongly, but also I had a talk with a friend yesterday who she's been married just over 10 years, and I never heard her speak this way. She said that she feels so safe and secure, and that this person loves her so much and unconditionally, and he thinks she's beautiful. Like, she's extremely overweight. She has many, many issues. And she's like, I just feel completely, it gives me such security to move on. And I was wondering about that of, I feel like in these things a lot, it's like we think that no external things can bring us anything. Like it's all an inside job. And I sometimes wonder about the need for external sense of safety, um, acceptance, love, co-regulation of the nervous system. Is that of any value to people who are not of the norm? In other words, is that something that's could be helpful for me? Like it never occurred to me that I could like, or not lately. I haven't thought about being able to find such an experience with another person that, because my family, I don't get that sense of safety because they don't have it within themselves to give, which I'm realizing now. So they do love me, but it's not an unconditional, like I don't
yeah,
feel
yeah, yeah,
safe and
yeah.
secure in that kind of sense. And is that worth pursuing, or is it really, no, you can't find that elsewhere. I need to find it internally, and that's my path. So anyway, just something I was wondering about. But
Yeah, that is quite a big one actually. See, there's a how can I put this? There's a line to be that you will cross. It doesn't sound right when I say it, but just as a metaphor, there's a point that you'll reach, if you like, where you stop seeing external as external, or rather external as separate. You'll start to see how what is apparently external isn't actually, I don't know how to put this, isn't actually external. It only appears external, but any interaction we have with it is an internal. But there is no internal or external. This is where it gets crazy,
but
So yeah,
maybe the circumstances outside of us that trigger certain states inside of us, is that still valid when we're on this path of awakening and seeing things as stories and interpretations, but yet there's undeniably an effect on the nervous system and stuff? Or is there not? Is this mistaken? In other words, is there value in
yeah. You're right. There
pursuing,
is.
relationships or places to live or foods or health activities or exercise or sunshine? In other words, all these external factors that regulate us, is that still valuable or no? We're supposed to be imperturbable by nothing, and it's all an inside job. So I guess, you know,
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, and well, up to a certain point, it's perfectly. We go from saying that external circumstance caused this to happen in me, right? And then we go at the next level, we go, that external circumstance was something I reacted to, and that's what we used to call the cause, right? Or the effect rather, the effect of that external thing, but it wasn't because of the external thing itself. It was because of my interpretation of that. Right? And then we get the next step after that becomes, it's what is what is, and there's an infinite number of things involved in it, right? And they're all internal, but there is no external if I look at it that way. So they're all just here. Oh, oh, hmm. When I when I see something beautiful, it could be described as me responding to something that's outside of me, but it isn't. The beauty is not in the thing that's outside of me. It's in my perception of it.
Agreed, but without that trigger, that didn't arise in you. And so, you know what I mean? Like I have flowers here now that I'm looking at. They bring a certain feeling. Yes, that
Yes,
feeling arises in me, but it arises when there's flowers. So, in other words, it still kind of seems outward dependent. And I guess the
yes,
same
yeah,
thing I'm asking about, I'm trying again to get answers from the out, like
yes,
would
yes, yeah.
trying to find a loving relationship be valuable or no? For me, I need to learn how to make that an inside job and finding
No,
other
no, no,
people.
no. You don't need to learn. No, that's not true, right? But I hear what you're saying, right? The beauty that arises in you appears to be the beauty in the flower, but the beauty in the flower is your projection,
Yeah.
right? But there's another step beyond that even, where it's not just your projection. The the flower is you, and the beauty is you.
That I
Now,
don't
don't
understand.
worry too much about that at this stage, but I'm just saying that what you're experiencing is a step on the way to something where you start to appreciate. It's not see we can talk about this and it appears to be an intellectual thing, but it's not. It's suddenly something you can experience, right? So you can be struck. I mean, well, the jacarandas are in bloom in Australia at the moment, and you see a jacaranda tree, and it's just this cloud of purple, and it is so striking, and you can
Mm,
say that's beautiful. The jacaranda tree has got no idea of what's beautiful. I imagine. I don't
hmm.
really know, but I'm saying that. And somebody else can look at it and go, "Oh, look at the bloody mess on the ground of all those flowers that fall down."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where is there any such thing as beauty? Where is it? Is it out
Mm.
there or in here? It's not. But my experience is, oh, isn't that, look, it just melts me. It's just this feeling that happens when it happens. It's neither outside nor inside.
The experience is, but the trigger is outside for that experience. It happens when you see the tree. It's not like you wake up in the morning and say to yourself, I'm now going to experience jacaranda beauty. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the trigger isn't in the tree. It seems like the trigger is in the tree. But why did somebody else get triggered to look at the flowers on the ground and consider them a mess? Maybe because their job is to clean up those flowers or to mow them or something. I don't know, whatever. But they see it differently to me. So it's really very much a case of it's an experience. It's neither outside nor inside. It's neither from that or by that or in me or by me. It's a joint effort, if you like.
you're saying calling it triggered by the tree
That's just one way to look
is
at it.
irrelevant. It's just something that arose within you, and you can tell a story about it coming from the tree, although it kind of is because it does arise from that, but you're saying it's irrelevant. It just is a happening.
It's a happening, yes. It's just Yeah.
But then my question is there any value to surrounding yourself with jacarandas or finding a loving relationship? Or, you know what I'm saying? Because if you notice those patterns in you arising within certain circumstances, is that of value to pursue environments in which those things are triggered in you? You know what I mean? However you put it, it's still the same um, thing. Back to my question of, is there value in finding that type of
I think
relationship or surrounding yourself with things that cause better reactions in you?
I think if this is all a perceptual thing, and you look consciously or you search for areas, say, where you want to live, where there are loads of things that, as you put it, trigger the good stuff, you know, then aren't you then dependent on, or seemingly on an external? In other words, it always comes back to perception and your story about what you're seeing out there. Surely. Do you see what I mean? Or have I missed what you're saying? I don't know.
I guess it might come down to a different question. In other words, of I don't know, something came up the other day with Paul about witness consciousness and being the observer of all of these patterns arising in us. And he said that some people, anyway, it was a discussion about whether it has value to be in witness consciousness, whether it is awakening or that's just another identification. Um, in other words, seeing the patterns from the outside and observing throughout the day, but then seeing yourself as the observer kind of thing. Um, which of course also only happens when you're thinking of it. Otherwise, you're just being the observing, maybe. Um, so there's that question. And then if you do still see yourself as seeing stuff and noticing the stuff is arising, then I guess is there value in the world of pursuing things that seem to bring about calmer or more joyful patterns in your
So,
system?
so what arises here, Tammy, that's a really, really big thing is that you're still apparently presuming that there's a self who this is happening to. So if you can imagine that there's no self in there, then when a happening happens, it's not to, it's not by, it's not for, it's not of somebody. It's a standalone happening. So what comes to mind is an exercise that would be something like every time you think about this in any way, shape, or form, anything, any aspect of it that you think about, a question that would be productive for you would be, is this happening to someone? Now we don't want an answer in it as much as we don't need you to, we just need you to consider the question. Is it happening to someone? And if the answer, or if it seems to be an affirmation that it is happening to someone, then you go, where is that someone? So if you take away the someone that it's happening to, this whole discussion falls apart.
So just keep observing and don't get lost in these questions either.
Yeah, but I would say if you are the observing, so we're not talking about Tammy doing observing, we're talking about observation happening. And observation doesn't mean description or definition. It's the experience of whatever's happening.
So just don't go into questions or wonderings. In other words, leave all of it alone and
Yeah, that's an instruction for Tammy, is it?
I don't see anyone else here asking for homework, so I guess so, yes.
Who is asking these questions, Sammy? Where did they originate from?
I don't
Don't
know.
look for a right answer, just what comes up.
I don't know. They just seem to be there. All these questions, jumbled and strong.
And do you believe that those questions somehow originates from a you? Or are they just thoughts appearing and then you feel the inclination to express those questions and follow them?
But who's the you? I don't know. The question is a little confusing, but
Yeah, it is confusing. It doesn't make sense. But I'm asking you because I want you to look.
I'm not sure exactly where to go with the looking. It seems there's a body sitting here and thoughts arise and the nervous system reacts and there's panic and stuff and discomfort and just a lot of confusion, and that seems to be stuff that arises a lot.
That was a good description. I like that. Ooh. So that can all happen without there being a Tammy there. Like there's a body with a label Tammy, but without there being an actual Tammy running the show. That can all happen, can't it?
What about the whole thing about us being the space in which everything happens? So is it just more about keep coming back to that quiet and not getting so like swept up in the nervous system happenings and the thoughts happening, and just identifying more as the quiet or resting more in the quiet rather than getting caught up? And just the wisdom of like, there's both of those arising, so might as well go back to the quiet. Is that kind of it?
Yeah. Yeah, if there's quiet there, or if there's panic there, what's the difference? I mean, I don't mean the difference in terms of experience, but what's the difference about them being there? They're both just being there, aren't they? but we know from experience that when there's panic or unpleasantness, we assume it's happening to us in a much stronger way than if there's calm and quiet there. If there's calm or quiet there, we can much more easily say it's just there. But that's the nature of the experience, isn't it?
Yeah, there's an urge to follow it and solve, and it seems
Yeah, yeah, because
important.
we've been taught that we've got to fix these things.
In other words, yeah.
Do you see that, let's say there is an intense sensation happening, and as soon as there is some kind of judgment or opinion or even meaning making on what is happening, there is also a claiming of that. It's like it moves from impersonal to personal as soon as you slap some kind of meaning on it. Can you see that?
In the sense that it's all happening to this person and I need to solve my life and all that kind of stuff. Like I need to fix Tammy's life or whatever. Is that in that sense? Or that the panic is happening to Tammy rather than just happening?
Yeah.
Ownership.
You,
Yeah, we can say ownership, but my point, that is what it is. It is a claiming. But before there were thoughts about the intense sensation, there were just intense sensations. But as soon as there was thoughts about it, giving it meaning or judging, there is also an inherent claiming of the sensation as if it's about Tammy.
it seems
Right.
like I caused it and the whole way I'm living caused it and I'm doing everything wrong. It seems to mean it's like a barometer of how I'm doing and about my ideas and actions. And it seems all to be,
You're going to, this is too complicated. I just want you to see the moment it switches from impersonal to personal.
mhm,
So before you had any thoughts about the sensations happening in your body, it was just there.
yeah. You mean once I make it a problem that I need to fix? Or you're
Yeah,
talking about
but
something before that?
even before that, even you sort of analyze it or put some meaning or like even,
Think about it.
yeah, in any way,
Hmm.
there is a claiming. Before that happened, it was just another happening, you know, the
Yeah,
same way as a cloud passing by in your periphery.
yeah, yeah. I think I've been trying to think about that a little bit since you guys spoke about it. Like, let's say I'll be on the bus or something and noticing that my whole body is tense and the jaw is clenched, and I'll just, before I start to solve it or blame myself or go into the usual patterns, it's like, oh, that's what's here right now. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, that before
Yeah,
part.
kind
Yeah.
of.
Here's a tricky one, and a good one perhaps, and that is that the moment you either describe or define or put words to it of any kind, whether they're mental or verbal, you add to it. You make it about something. There's an implicit meaning in it. But there's a split second where there's awareness of it, but before you think about it, there is just this, and you couldn't describe it without crossing that line and going over to owning it.
Mm-hmm. And I think, yeah, I was going to ask, but I think I've had a few split seconds experiences of those things where I didn't jump to the mind to label it, solve it, wonder what's wrong with my life. Just kind of, I don't know, something came from somewhere else to
Yep,
move
yep,
me.
yep.
And
And
I was like,
can
ooh,
you
that's cool.
can you recognize a feeling that comes along with that?
Yeah. I would say more spaciousness and a huge relief that I didn't have to
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
my mind and all
Don't
the old
don't
patterns.
don't try and
Stories, stories.
describe it.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that what you say is probably right. But what I'm saying is that the moment you start to describe it, something changes.
Yeah.
But it's also not that you don't expect, like, don't go hunting this permanent spaciousness that's where you supposed to be where you arrive,
Mm.
because life can be anything. It's more about seeing that whatever is here is not about anything or anyone. It's just what's here. So it's not that life becomes permanently spacious and peaceful, but rather the someone had any um, who had any opinion on or thinks it should be different is gone.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the Advaita people which we were talking about earlier, they identify with this witness awareness
Yeah.
thing, which is fine for a while, but eventually that's gonna rot as well.
And can you see that that identification with that, although it seems to be an improvement on the old identification, is still identification?
Like I'm the space in which everything arises.
Yeah. Or I'm the observer of that space.
Yeah. So in practice, it's just not following the thoughts as much or
No,
noticing that.
it's just recognizing that the thoughts are there, the same as the breeze or the same as the tree or the same as anything. They're no different. They're just there. You can't stop them from turning up.
Well, what can happen Tammy, is that is not that the thoughts will stop, but since it's recognized that the thoughts is just thoughts and not about anyone, it's not anyone's thoughts, they become less interesting. And so it's not that you stop thinking, it's that mm, they don't get any energy. They're not followed. They come up and they disappear.
Yeah, and I think something else that helps them is more if you can actually see also the reality of, like, in other words, they're we go with them as long as they seem to be helping and bringing about a better experience.
Yeah, so
Ah, that's
that's what I
right.
And
have brought up to you a couple of times, is that your orientation to all of this is about feeling better. And as long as you have that as a kind of comparison or judgment, so to speak, like this isn't better, so I'm not in the right place, so to speak, or this isn't it, then you will chase your tail forever because life isn't always going to be better.
Uh, and to extend that, it's not to say that if thoughts turn up about that, that they need to be killed. It's what is our connection to those thoughts. If we can, so we can say, I am having an experience of a thought, but what that thought's about doesn't make any sense. It's just that. It's like I had an image a moment ago of walking through a library and not opening any of the books. You're just on your way to somewhere else and you're just walking
mm,
through. Well, your thoughts are a bit like those closed books, or
mm,
or even a book that's open and you can see the chapter heading in on the book that's open as you walk past it, but you're not interested. You're not going to get stop and read it. It's just there. So those thoughts can be there about all of that improvement and all of that stuff, but they're just thoughts that are there. We don't have to invest anything in them or get anything out of them. They're just there. And they can be rather interesting, the fact that they're there. Not that we need an answer, not that we need to find out what the interest is, just that's our reaction to that. Oh yeah, okay. That could be interesting, that book, but I'm not particularly interested in reading it at the moment.
Who would say that, Vince? Who is having that relationship? Who is,
Nobody.
yeah, but how do you think Tammy is hearing that or potentially
Okay,
can
yeah,
hear that?
yeah. Yeah, the way I described it made it sound like it's happening to somebody. Mm.
and then what I was hearing is it's better to, from both of you guys, what was interpreted here is it's better to stick with what's arising and be with that rather than following thoughts.
Yes, but
Yeah. Again, I'm really um, stuck on you clearly seeing that there is nobody there that can do those things, that there's nobody there that is in control. But your mind seems to go to, okay, but now I'm going to do staying with what's here.
But But also you're saying to me, I want you to see that there's no one in control, but I don't, but then that's also a doing. I don't know. The whole thing is very confusing.
Yes, it is. And it can't not be when we talk about it. But out of that confusion, something will happen.
So, just go back to that stuff of like, there's a body here squinting and seeing the thoughts arising and realizing that there's no, I mean, it seems like I'm talking and thinking now, but you're saying that that's happening, but there's no self doing it. I think I still don't understand that part. It seems like I'm talking
Okay,
here.
so
But
yeah, so say there seems not that I don't understand it. Say there seems to be some confusion, I don't know, whatever the right word is about that,
mm-hmm,
right? And that also is just there.
mm-hmm,
It's not an adequacy or an inadequacy of Tammy that is there. It is just there.
mm-hmm.
So we've got big problems in these meetings because we talk about stuff.
So just keep noticing that the thoughts are arising of themselves. You're saying who could be there to notice that either? Is that your smile, Marius?
I'm just trying to think of how, from another angle, we can approach this. Okay, so have you looked at control? What is control?
What do you mean?
Do you have control?
It seems like I have a little bit.
Okay, so tell me how that little bit is.
I mean, on the one hand, I see what you're saying. Thoughts arise and actions arise or not. But I mean, you didn't say anything, but it seems that sometimes thoughts and actions correlate. I don't know how to put it. Let me think. It seems that all the thinking and worrying is somehow creates control or changes what happens. I guess I would put it that way.
Okay, but you just said that thoughts just happen.
Yeah, but when you set an intention and where thought flows,
Where did
energy
that,
goes, and
where does that intention come from?
I know that it just arises, but it feels like it's me. I'm setting those intentions and the thoughts are coming and the actions are happening. It feels like I just need to have the right intention and do it more. Um,
Yeah.
Tammy, why did you go into
yeah.
top gear with the speaking then?
Why what?
You just went into top gear, into overdrive with the speaking just then about that.
Yeah, I'm trying to emphasize the point of like, yes, like
No.
grasping onto it. It's like I just need to have more intention and I will awaken or fix my life. Like there's this huge desperation. Although I remember like 15 years ago, someone at a wedding said something about something, and I was like, yeah, but even our desire, they're like, well, they really wanted to. And I'm like, but even that just arises. Like, I don't know why I want to do something or not. And they're like, all right, that's too deep for me already. Bye. But and that was the end of that. And 15 years later, here I am. But
Do you
yeah,
see
so
how the mind avoids directly
answering the
looking at
question,
what we're talking about?
where does
It wants to
intention
move
arise
on
from?
from here.
Yeah.
Tammy, do you get Vince's Substack messages?
The stories?
Yeah, and the additions at the end of the stories.
Yeah.
Okay, on the most recent one, I think it outlines, the sense that we have control, or the sense that we have anything, the felt
Yeah.
sense, the sense of there's someone being here. It outlines, is it called interoception? That, Vince? It delineates these things in a way that I don't know if you'll appreciate them, but I found them useful. I mean, I knew of them, but the way that they're actually laid out, I found useful. And I don't know if you will do too, but from the way that you're speaking and the questions you're asking, I think you might. But of course, I can't know that. It's just an idea. That's the most recent post, I think. I can't remember what
Okay,
it's
I'll look at
called.
it. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
Hmm. Um, but Marius, what were you saying about, I guess what I was trying to say with that story is that the things do arise, and I do see that to some extent. In other words, I've seen that for a long time, and yet I don't go there. I don't deepen that or something. I don't know.
Exactly. You follow the mind's um, need to keep moving.
Yes, that's desperation. No, no, no. Go there, go there. Solve your life. You can. There are all the answers. Go into the thoughts and also it can't be true. Sure, it seems like thoughts just arise, but somehow there's got to be stuff I have to do. Like, why am I alive? Because I have to take action, and vigorous action will pay off more than, you know what I mean? Like going into this with full intensity is what's needed, and it's very hard to. All right, ask me more questions so I can see more clearly.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure out if you have any control. And you just said, you can set intentions. And then I asked you, okay, where do those intentions come from? And then you went off into a story.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look again. Where does those intentions come from? And what makes those intentions belong to a you?
Where do they come from? I guess they just arise, it seems, but I don't know. There's also, thoughts that it's because I am me and I have this special meanness. And so these certain patterns keep repeating, or thought patterns. In other words, they don't arise in your mind, these weird thoughts, they arise in mine. In other words, I'm the one who's aware of them, or they're occurring to me. Because clearly no one around me has such weird thought. In other words, it's me. I'm the one who's aware of it. I'm alone in this room. I'm the one who's experiencing them. So even when I go to, yes, things are just arising, whether it's sensation or thought or movement or the vibration of this talking now in my head, it's happening to the one who is aware of them, which is me. Or I'm the one who's aware of them, or however you want to put it.
What is an I then?
I is the one who knows and cares and tries. I don't know. And
So
who's experiencing the life of this body. And so I want to make the experience the best it could be. Forget it. That was sidetracking. Let's go back.
okay, so let's go back. What is an I?
At the basic level, it's me who is awake and here. That's it.
So what does that mean? What what does awake mean? Isn't it just experience happening? Are you the experience?
I am experiencing it. Or I am knowing the experience. Like a bottle of water doesn't know it's a bottle of water, but a Tammy
So
knows it's a Tammy.
okay, so in order to know anything, um, how does what is knowing? How does it compute into something to know? Isn't it just thought?
Is experience only thought, you're asking?
No, knowing experience.
No, there's being aware. I can be aware of pain, sounds, emotions, sensations. But you're saying even calling them that is a thought. It's possible.
Before knowing, there is still awareness. But as soon as you know something, you're grabbing something out of this and packaging it into a label or something and know it. It's a thought. Can you see that?
Yes, yes, there's experience. And then to talk about it, we have to put it into a thought and give it to someone else. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I touch on experience and then I immediately go into thought. That's how it seems to happen.
So
Back and
where is
forth.
the I in that?
Well, the story of the I is in going back into the thought patterns and discussions about going into thoughts like I am now.
Hmm.
And then there's just the raw sensation and stuff which you guys talk about. But that is also happening to me, in me, with me. I'm the one who's aware of it. In other words, your arms aren't tingling right now. It's mine. Or you don't say arms or not arms. There's something here that's experiencing something that no one else is right now in the world. And I can't deny that. I don't know how to.
Well, that there is, eh, for you right now, in your direct experience, to assume that there are other people having different experiences is a thought, and it's an assumption. It's nothing you can confirm because the only thing that can be confirmed, so to speak, is direct experience, right? So let's stay with that. Stay with what can be confirmed.
But I also see other people in direct experience and they wince or they smile. So that's
Hmm.
also my experience. I don't know what to say.
How is that different from watching a movie?
I'm like, why are you trying to convince me other people aren't real? This is weird.
Thank you, Charlie. That was good. Mm.
I'm not only trying to convince you that there's no other people, I'm also trying to convince you that there is no you. Not convince, but to show you. But you have to see it. Like I can't pass it on. You have to look.
Okay. So you're saying, how is seeing other people, like if someone were to walk into this room right now, how is that different than watching a movie?
Hmm.
So all of my care for my family is just fake? All right, let's
Well,
look
it
at this. Yeah.
kind of depends what you mean by fake. But yeah, it's something you have constructed, or something that is constructed um, out of, you know, it's a result of conditioning. It's an imagined construct that doesn't exist outside of your experience.
So everything I see in this room, how is it different than seeing things in a movie? I guess because I can touch it.
Okay, so how does it prove that there is a someone in the things or the people you can touch?
Because they, like me, describe their experience. So I know there's someone or something in there that's feeling stuff and experiencing stuff.
And what is that someone? Like what is that made of?
I don't know, but last night Mind Bialik put out a podcast with Donald Hoffman or something about how reality is like a VR set, so I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
that, that's interesting.
a cognitive psychologist or something like this. I didn't watch it yet, but um, about how everything is, it seemed to relate to what everyone here says about it's all our interpretation. Our mind makes up things and constructs the reality. But is that how you see things?
Let's focus on how you see things.
Okay. So, how do I know that this body on the couch and all the stuff in this room is not just a movie? But there are sensations. So, what do we say about that?
That the sensations, like I said before, how what makes them personal, about, owned by Atami.
Just because I'm the one who knows them and no one else does. That's really
But that's the same thing with everything else, you know.
true. But you can walk in the room and see the same stuff I do, but you can't feel what I'm feeling.
How do you know that I can see the same stuff as you do? And how do you know that I see it the same way that you see it?
You don't see exactly. Your eyes could perhaps see it a little bit differently, but we both talk about a gray square and how when we bump into it, it's hard or cold. Like we have shared descriptions.
Hmm. But again, what? So I'm not trying to guide you into solipsism because that's not what I'm talking about.
I don't know what that means, but
It means that you believe that you are the only one to exist, so to speak.
oh, good, because that was
But
scary.
there is still a you existing.
Mm, okay.
So I'm not saying there
So you're
aren't.
saying it's nolipsism, like not even I exist.
So let's not make this more complicated than it needs to be. We can agree that, for now at least, we can agree that there are different locations um, of experience in consciousness. So we can say that you are one location and I'm another. But what makes it a Tammy?
A Tammy as opposed to a what? Just someone here who's experiencing?
Not a someone. It's just experience.
But again, a tree falls in the forest if there's no one there to know it. Like I'm here to know it. Like I'm a knower or a feeler, right? The floor doesn't feel,
Why
but
can
I do.
why why can it be a knowing and a feeling? Why does it have to be a knower and a feeler?
Because knowing happens to a someone. It doesn't happen to a plastic bottle that's near me. I don't know how to follow that.
So there is awareness, right?
Yeah.
So can awareness be aware of experience without a Tammy?
But then you're just calling it awareness instead of Tammy. In other
Yeah,
words,
but
there's something that's
let's not
aware.
jump now. First, let's break down Tammy, who's in control.
So what's the question?
What makes awareness into a Tammy? What, where is Tammy? What is Tammy?
The one who's experiencing.
But why does it have to be a one? Why can't it just be experience happening? What makes it someone's experience?
I guess it goes back to that whole thing. So, okay, so I'm the one who's aware.
You keep saying I'm the one who's aware, but I'm asking you, where does the I come from? Like, where does the ownership of awareness come from? Can't there just be awareness happening as a process, as a verb, rather than somebody owning
But
that awareness?
but going back to what you said before, you said we can agree that there's points of awareness. There's one here and there's one there. You're saying it's not
Hmm.
solipsism that I'm the only one that exists. There's one point here, one point there. If we
Yeah.
agree on that, then that
Yes.
point is instead of calling it a Tammy and a Marius, we're calling it points of awareness. It seems to me no what's the difference?
Okay, good. So you see that, right? So where in that um w- where in that is the ownership of experience and the control of what should and shouldn't be happening?
But it's the same thing. In other words, these meetings come up to create a different understanding or experience. And everything in life does also. This is just more spiritual or more correct or more true. But also
Hmm.
here we're looking to have an understanding, create an experience, realize a truth. What we do affects the experience, meaning there is some doer controller. I don't know. It's just more subtle or spiritual here, but we're here to improve experience. I don't know if this is making any
Are,
sense, but
are we here to improve the experience? Isn't it just life um, responding to conditions? Conditions responding to other conditions?
and you don't believe there's intention and desire and hard work or
Yeah, but again,
sensing
where
or
does those come from?
so crazy. It's so crazy. They too are just arising. I mean,
Yeah, so how is it not conditions responding to conditions?
but how did first conditions be created? You have no part in that.
I don't know.
It seems like effort has a part. Like, sure, there's conditions, but like squeezing and contracting and efforting and squinting and trying seems to affect. I
So,
don't know.
so the amount of effort, what what decides the amount of effort somebody does as opposed to somebody else?
Yeah.
Isn't that also just conditions?
Yeah. It's just it's seen, but it can't be believed. I don't know. It's like
Yeah. The mind will do anything not to see this. Because this means that there is no you, there's just conditions responding to conditions.
yeah, it's like I glimpsed it, but then I go back into no, 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 that can't be. We have to try. We have to try. Like it's just it's wild.
Yeah.
Because you're saying there's no point in me being here or trying. Like all I've been doing for decades is being here and trying. And you're saying like, so what are you
Well,
saying?
from the
Yeah.
point of what we're just talking about with, awareness at two different locations, you're just witnessing, trying, and whatever you just said.
Sorry, what'd you say about the two locations on the trying?
I'm just saying that if we agree on, for this moment at least, that we are awareness located at different locations, there is no you trying, but there is a witness of the conditions responding, seemingly trying this and that and the other.
Yes. Yeah, and all the patterns of this self-arising and claiming and trying, it's seen, and yet it still feels like it's a me. But
Yeah, and then let's go back to, what does that mean? What does it feel like? What does a me feel like?
like I'm doing the contracting and the trying and the intention, and I have to keep doing it. And there's these thoughts and very, very intense pull.
Can I just say something real quick? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm listening and I don't want to interrupt. This feels like a good process, but um, I mean, Tammy, it sounds like you see it because you're saying like, "Oh, I see it," but then I go right back into feeling this effort and all this, and I think it really, I mean, just whenever you feel the effort, go back to seeing it again and just say, "All right, well, who is putting in this effort?" Like, look for that impulse. Look for what is making you put this effort in. Try to find it in your experience. Is it a sensation? Is it a feeling? If it's a feeling, what is that feeling? Look for it in your experience. Just keep looking. Like, you see it. You say you see it, and I believe that you see it. Just look for it every time you feel that impulse and that effort arise again, and say, where is it coming from? What's creating this? Look for it. Keep looking. I mean, I'm sure you've heard this a million times before, as have I, but I don't know. I guess I just felt like, I should chime in and I see that you see it, and I'm just like,
Do
well,
you see it?
I mean, a little bit sometimes, but that's
Oh.
kind of
Mm,
that's the practice. Yeah.
mm,
Sometimes
Y-
well, I don't know. I don't want to get too into stories about sort of what I've done in the past and what I'm, whatever. But yes, right now I would say I see it, and that's why I feel compelled to say it to you.
mm.
And that's all. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Ray. Are you the Ray that I
Yeah.
know from other
Yeah, I'm
times?
the Ray
Oh,
that
okay. Hey,
I'm
Ray.
the familiar Ray who's in
Okay.
all the same meetings that you are. Most of the time. I've been going to them less, but yes, so I just felt like I don't know. I know for myself in the past the message lands different from somebody who I've seen, struggling and at this for a long time, and hopefully this has a similar effect for you. But I'm hearing what you're saying, and it sounds to me like you're kind of investigating the right questions, and I just want to be supportive and say, you're keep paying attention to those things, but really, I think you see it. Just there's the tendency for your thoughts to cover it up because it's partly habit, but you kind of have to notice the habit and continue to sort of disentangle it or just really look closely at what's happening when that habit arises again and look for if the effort comes up, where is the entity that's creating this effort? You know, something like that. This doesn't make a lot of sense, but
Yeah, no, thanks, Ray. I appreciate it.
yeah, yeah. Okay, sorry, Marius, if I interrupted, but I just
No,
wanted to
no,
chime
it's
in.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I mean, what he was saying, I think I do. I mean, that's what I keep saying to you. I see that it just does arise, and yet I can't so much believe it. And also, I don't know what to do now. It's like, and I'm not sure I fully see. In other words, I can see that thoughts arise, impulses arise, but I still do feel that it's
It's not that
happening.
you don't believe, is that you too easily believe the next thought.
Yeah, I get swept away again. Um, there's there's so much a belief in what we are here for, and we're people and we need to make an effort, or else what is this whole lifetime, and all of like huge stories around that, and making use of every moment, and responsibility, like huge ones for me, for myself and for others, huge ones, life purpose, all of this. And then there's the suffering itself, which creates a huge impulse to solve it. So on both those levels of the ideological responsibility, or making use of this lifetime and helping and solving all of that, and then on the level of the huge uncomfortableness and huge suffering of the emotions or the body that cause wanting to go into thoughts to solve. So on both those levels, I keep getting sucked back in.
Yes.
Uh,
And I love that you bring this up because this is something I continuously bring up where I say that, awakening isn't about recognizing the machinery. Um, that's that's the doorway. The hard part is to deconstruct and dissolve all of those things that you just mentioned that makes up what you understand as life,
yeah.
right? And that's painful, at least through the interpretation of the self that doesn't exist. It
Why
will
is it
interpret
painful?
because the self is made of that. You're sucking life, or seemingly, out of life, so to speak, for the self. That's the whole world of the self. That is the dream the self lives in. And without that, you know, what is left, the self says. And so it's hard to sever the ties to your whole life. That's what keeps you getting sucked back in. Anytime that those things get challenged or uh, something seemingly happens, interpretations about something happens in the self's life, and it's painful, and back in you go into the story.
Yeah, that we can somehow solve it, like my bone mineral density scan, or just anything that arises every single day. But I don't know. I guess I don't. this whole questions of who am I and the self, I don't relate to those words so much. I more relate to, am I getting sucked into thoughts? Where
Yeah,
are
but
they arising from? That
that
I can
that's the
understand.
start, right? That's we first try to establish that there is nobody here, but that's just, that's scratching the surface. The next step is to, when you see clearly that there is no self here, that's not the end, that's the beginning.
So I don't see that there's no self. I don't understand those questions at all. Like, but I do see when you ask me stuff like, can you see that thoughts and desires just arise? I can see that. You know what I mean? But I don't understand the big, like, most of the ways this is put just puts me into, of course, here I am, here's my body, here's my thought. Like, it just puts me stronger into, of course, like the mind defending or explaining how there's this, like, a person. But
Yeah, and then your work is to look at that. What makes that true? How can you prove any of that? Sit down and prove it to yourself. Write it down. Work it out.
yeah, that doesn't, it's not the best direction because my mind is like wild and it just goes, it brings me more into mind. But the seeing for me is
Yeah, but
about what you said today about, where is it all coming from? Like, are you causing that? And where did it arise from? And even the extreme trying, did you do that or did it just arise? That I can see.
mhm. So that's a good thing. But I would say writing isn't. I would argue that don't knock it until you've tried it, because every time we have this conversation, um, I can clearly see that there is this tendency of your mind to just jump over. You keep assuming stuff, you keep creating new stuff out of thin air. And the writing process is it's a very directional way where you don't get to jump over stuff. You start somewhere and then you move through it. You prove that what you're taking to believe is true. You prove it to yourself. And when you can't enough times, something might click.
I guess the only
Writing is a
question,
better way to think than thinking, to keep everything
hmm,
in your own head. Writing is a
yeah,
better process.
yeah. Byron Katie says that as well. Put it on paper. But I guess the only answer that I can see, the only question I could see the answer to is, does this stuff just arise? And that's the only thing I could say a yes to. When you say, is there a self? Is it a, all that just takes me into story. The only thing I can clearly see is that things just arise. Of course, I then go back into story and believing that I am causing it or doing it or intention or effort. But I do see that clearly. Is there anything else that how should I go about it? And you also said that seeing that clearly is just the first step. And now we need to dismantle all the beliefs and stuff,
Mhm.
whatever. So should I go more there or go first into seeing that there's no doer, or I don't know. Now I'm getting confused.
Did you get my email?
I did. I was waiting to have something very smart to like ask about it before I responded. But yes, I read your
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
It
you don't
was,
need to respond. Just curious if you got it.
yes, it was very descriptive of everything that goes on in my mind. Yes.
Yeah, cool.
But what do I do with that? But yeah, for sure.
Well, you look. So part of the creation of the sense of me is again the narration, the interpretation of what is going on is it's interpreted and narrated in a very specific way. It's narrated in first person perspective, right?
Yeah.
Um, do you see that? Do you see how the effect of that type of narration creates a storyline of a me, and then you believe that that storyline is you?
Yes, but what is the differentiator between what you say, a Tammy or a me, and the fact that we agree that there's an awareness point here? What is the difference? It's just the beliefs about the Tammy that are wrong, or the fact that she's causing any of it or has any control? So basically,
Both, both.
yeah.
Just I'm gonna chime in again real quick. Sorry. um, Tammy, you said something that kind of stuck out to me, which was that like I can see that everything is just arising, and like I see that sometimes, but then I'm start looking. Is there something else that I should be looking at? And I'm not sure, but my own feeling was like, no, I think you should just look at that as much as possible, or yeah, that sounds like a doing, and I guess in a manner of speaking, I don't know, just seeing that yes, everything in your experience is just arising, and that includes your thoughts about, you know, well, I'm doing this, and I think paying attention to this thing that it sounds like you already understand, that everything is just arising, and noticing in every moment the truth of that is you know I don't know, I guess, without wondering if there's something else you should be doing, maybe just I think that's a great step. I don't think you'll ever be doing anything wrong if you notice that whatever's happening in this moment is just arising in the way that it sounds like you already understand, and noticing that that's true in every moment for every phenomena that you experience, or in a manner of speaking. Does that sound like something that you feel like you'd be capable of doing, or does that make any sense?
It's interesting when you were talking, I was thinking that's becoming another story for me. Oh, look, it's just arising. But yeah, um, like as if it's taking off responsibility for myself or something, or like an excuse to do something. But yeah, no, that's a
Is
great
there
point.
something
Thank
wrong
you.
with that? I mean, I think that's well, yeah. I mean, if you, yeah, I think that's creating another story, or that's another story that has just arisen in your experience. That, well, if I
Mm.
just notice everything's arising all the time, then you know, then thing that's not appropriate either. Like that's a thought that just arose for you, and just noticing like that came up for me, or that just arose right now. And then you might feel a tendency to say, well, I wonder why that came up. And you might have a memory about your childhood or your upbringing. I don't know, but all of these things are just coming up in the moment. It's not something you selected, it's not something you planned out. Every phenomena that you experience in this present moment is something that's just coming up for you in a way that it seems to me like you understand already. So that's, I don't know, just putting in my two
Thanks,
cents.
Ray. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay. I'm gonna mute myself again. Sorry.
Thanks.
Why are you sorry, Ray?
I don't know. It's just super late over here, and I feel like I shouldn't be making any noise. And so when I unmute myself, it feels like I shouldn't be doing it. Anyhow, please continue. I'm finding this very stimulating, so I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Ray.
But Ray is right. There is a element to this that is really important, and that is to ruthlessly look. Not look once or twice or three times, and then let the mind suck you into finding the next insight that will unlock it all. But it's non-stop looking.
Just that it's all arising and not going into giving it meaning and stuff. Or the stories about I caused this and how can I solve it? Just watching. But what about the feeling that it's all happening to a me? Forget about that for now. Or I guess that I'm the one who's aware of it. Maybe that's okay for now, or that's still not good.
Yeah, I think that's okay for now. You can be awareness. So to expand on that, as awareness, there is emotions and thoughts doesn't revolve around the center. They just arise.
And then what does life look like? Life just keeps happening and you just don't get sucked in as much to thoughts or beliefs.
Do you see how the mind now is really uncomfortable in uncertainty about how this is going to be?
Yeah, like I want a guidance. I don't want to get off track.
Yeah, but that is just the mind trying to create more story movement. It will
Yeah.
come up, it
Sorry.
will come up with new questions, questions about anything and everything,
Mm-hmm.
stuff that you feel like you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's see it for what it is. It's just the mind creating its own movement to stay alive, to stay relevant.
You mean
Yeah.
belief in the
Sorry. I'll just chime in again. Sorry, I keep doing this. I'll probably keep doing it. um, I think the guidance that I you're looking for is to stay in the present moment and see what's arising in the present moment. And so I think when you have the thought, well, what is my life going to look like when I do this? That's you. That is one thought that's arising. That's going to capture capture you in something about the future. And it might, it's the same thing when something captures you about the past, right? So if I say stay in, just notice what's in your present experience, what's directly in your experience now. I mean, another thing that can happen is you might say, well, I had this experience back then and it was really challenging. And like, how should I have dealt with that then? Anything about the past or the future, anything that's about something other than what's occurring right now is a thought. And so,
well, a lot of thoughts that arise in the present are about indecision and now new thoughts arising because of meetings like this. It's like, well, am I doing this because of a thought or a belief, or why am I taking this action? Which action should I take? What should I say to my
all of
nephew?
those are
Which doctor
thoughts
should I
that
go
are
to?
occurring. All of those are
but
thoughts that are
but then
occurring
what
right
guides
now.
my actions? Which one of those thoughts should guide my action? In other words, what is okay to do or not do? What is in line with this or not? Like,
What are you doing right now?
Right. So what do I do when all these thoughts arise about what to do with my day all the time?
What are you doing about
Just
them right
notice
now?
them, asking you what to do.
Oh, is that okay?
I'm not sure. I'm asking.
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel okay about it?
No, I'd like to know what to do about the craziness of the mind, but I guess that's the directive, to just keep seeing that it's just arising, even the craziness of it, rather than try and solve it.
I mean, that's my recommendation, but I don't know. Maybe somebody else might feel differently, but yeah, if I mean, I guess it's my opinion, but if you can get to a point where you feel comfortable noticing that the craziness of the mind arising in the moment and you feel okay about it, that's, I guess, progress, so to speak, or at least I would consider that progress, but you know,
But then how do I
that's
look at
just a,
action and what guides my life or my actions?
well, I think you just pay attention to the actions that you're doing in the present moment and you'll have a feeling about them. And that's just more stuff for you to look at in the present moment. And so the only things that you need to evaluate, so to speak, or, because it seems like we're really wanting to evaluate things, is why don't we pay attention to whatever's happening in the moment, the actions that are happening in the moment, instead of coming up with hypotheticals.
So if a lot of what's arising in the moment is thoughts about what should guide my actions in the moment, so I
Hmm.
don't rush to solve it, instead I just look at it. I don't know. Marius, were you going to say something?
Do you want me to say something?
Do you have an answer about what should guide my actions or what to do with all the indecision?
So there is nobody, again, you're kind of thinking that there is somebody doing the stuff there, that there's somebody who needs um, to make a decision. A decision will be made. There's nothing, um, you can't do it wrong. There's nobody to do it wrong. Whatever decision is made will be made based on your current conditioning.
I guess to put
So
another way, Tammy, is you're still on this meeting and you haven't stood up and walked out of your room. Is that a decision being made that you've decided to stay? Or is that just something that's happening for you right now? Every second, are you making the decision like, hey, I need to stay on this meeting? I need to not hit this red button that will kick me out of the meeting. I need to stay in this room. I need to stay here and sit here and listen. Or is that just what's happening in the moment right now? And at some point, you will hit that button, probably. Or at some point, you'll get up and you'll go get a drink of water, you'll go to the bathroom or something like that. But in that moment, it'll be pretty clear that that's what you need to do. And so, why don't we just not worry about that and pay attention to what's going on right now? And if we pay attention to what's going on right now, everything's kind of just happening the way it's happening, isn't it? Including the thoughts about, well, what's going to happen if this, or what's going to happen if that, and how do I know this, and how do I know that? All of that's just happening as well. Is that okay?
That okay is a tough one, but I guess what I would take from here is yeah, I guess my question was about, is there any guiding principle? Is there anything I'm not seeing or should be looking at? And is there anything that should guide me in terms of making decisions or how to treat indecision or what actions I do take? But you're saying that there is no one who could do that, and it's just reactions arising and just conditioning will decide that, and thought or belief in extreme effort, um so I guess something about that, like when there are thoughts and beliefs about extreme effort, do we come to these meetings to understand those are not necessary and then that dies down? Or even that is just, in other words, there's nothing that can be done and there's no point in trying really hard with this stuff, or there's no one that is trying, or it's all just, these thoughts are just all happening and there's no way to solve them?
Maybe it will be helpful to you to, instead of letting your thoughts guide your decision. So before I say this, I'm now speaking to Tammy. So this false self that you think you are, because that's where I can answer your question from. Um, Rather than thinking or believing that the thoughts is doing the deciding, get in touch with the impulse before a decision is made. There can be, you know, hours, days, months of going back and forward in thought about this, that, and the other. But there is one impulse that leads to a decision. And when you see that, you perhaps will also see that all of the thoughts before that didn't really matter, because in that moment, one decision felt right.
I also
Or
want to
was it,
just chime in. Oh, sorry.
sorry, I was just going to
Uh,
ask, but was it not a culmination of all of those thoughts that brought that final impulse? In other words, was not all the work necessary from Tammy's perspective?
No, it's
mm,
it's the current conditions in the moment the decision is made that seems to um, make the decision. So in one sense, you can say that of you know the culmination of that will of course affect your decision or your sorry, your conditioning, um, but they themselves were not what made the decision. Meaning, um, a decision would be made regardless of you thinking about it for a month, and that whatever decision that was made would be the correct decision.
Correct in what sense?
In the sense that it couldn't be any other.
Mm. Okay. Well, thank you guys very much. Thank you, Marius.
Yeah, sure.
I will keep looking, I think. That's a thought arises here that I will keep looking. Um,
Yeah, so don't look in understanding. Don't look in thought. Look
mhm.
at the thought.
Right. I'm glad you noticed that a thought came up that said, I will look in the future. I will keep looking in the future. Recognize that that's the thought that's come up for you right now. And there's nothing wrong with that being there. If you recognize, oh, that's a thought. That's my intention that I'm set, that is being set for the future that has come up. That's fine. A thought came up for you just now. There's no problem with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you see what, you know, yeah, I think you're seeing the thing that you're trying to see. And I think it's just keeping it in your field of vision, doing whatever you need to do, but just noticing that in any given moment, like that's something that's still true, kind of, in a way of speaking. But yeah,
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
yeah, of course. It's been a minute since I've heard your voice, but I feel like yeah, I don't know. It feels like you're in a good spot, even though I know it probably doesn't feel that way to you.
Appreciate it.
Hmm. Everything going okay with you, Marius?
Hmm.
I also haven't spoken to you in a while. I think it's been a minute. It's been busy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
How is things for you?
Well, I think the last time I messaged you was about 2 weeks ago when I was uh, really having a hard time. It's the hardest time I've had in a while that I can remember. And then, yeah, there's a lot of inquiry, you know, and things are going better now, I would say, but it's been very strange in that not sleeping well, I guess. Not sleeping very
Mm.
well at all. And so I get kind of loopy, I think, when I don't sleep well. And sometimes it's, yeah, I don't know. I guess sometimes it makes me feel more in touch with certain aspects of my experience. And it definitely makes me feel, more confident than usual. So,
When you're loopy?
yeah, when I'm loopy. Well, so it's I think we may have spoken about this before where it's like some features of I guess bipolar 2 where, the depressive episodes are very clear and distinct like there's a phenotype. And occasionally sometimes there will be a rebound into sort of hypomania,
Mm.
which hasn't happened to me in a very long time. But one of the features of that is that I don't sleep very much at all. And then, during my sleep deprived state during the day, I'm more gregarious or I speak more freely. I cursed at work the other day for the first time in a long time. And I was just like, oh
Nice.
my goodness, I've never done that, that I can remember. I apologize, but I was also just like, that just happened. I think that's going to be fine. But if it's not, oh well. And I've had a lot of there's a lot going on with just in terms of my work situation, um, which you may have some inkling of in that I guess I'm feeling a little bit, you know, I don't know if burned out is the right word necessarily, but I'm feeling very undervalued at work in a certain way. And I don't know, it's just become a thing where I've become a lot more open to the possibilities of changing my work situation in a way that is still scary to me now, but used to be nearly inconceivable. And so, um, I don't know, that seems like probably a healthy thing, but still a little bit frightening. And so, I guess that's what's going on for me. Um, Still, some of the same patterns come and go every now and again. But right now, for this moment, I think I'm doing pretty good. Just the main thing is when I'm up really late at night, like here it's after 3 a.m. I'm just like, man, I should really try to be asleep so that I can go to work tomorrow and function. But it either happens or it doesn't, and I usually function okay at work anyway. And that's probably been about the past week. This has been happening.
Mm.
So, yeah, I don't know. Nothing too interesting, I guess. Oh, I'm going on a camping trip with my eldest son on Friday, with some of the other fathers and their sons. And if I think about it too much, I find it a little bit terrifying because I never went camping as a kid, and I think I have a lot of you know, there's just a lot of angst around being a good father and like being around all the other fathers who are at least peripherally aware that I'm divorced mm, and it's kind of a weird situation for me because all of their wives are probably really good friends with my ex-wife, and uh, I'm a bit aloof, and there are these sign-ups to be like, who's gonna bring the coffee maker, who's gonna bring like all the stuff, and I'm like, I barely have furniture, like I cannot volunteer to bring. I'll buy things, but like I don't have any gear, but I don't know. It's it's the kind of thing that's terrifying and like awful when I'm in sort of a depressed mindset. I'm just like, oh, I'm a total piece of shit. I don't have anything, and I'm just so inadequate and unprepared and whatever. And then, when I'm feeling quote unquote better or whatever, it's just like I'm pretty sure no one's gonna die on this trip, and nobody's in any real actual danger here, and we're gonna be okay. And let's just see what happens. So I signed up to bring a lot of extra toilet paper because I'm just like, hey, look, I don't have a lot of furniture, but I can get a whole lot of toilet paper, and I'll bring it for the camp. And so um, that kind of stuff. Very mundane, I suppose. But I'm happy with that. I don't need too much drama.
Was that um, a boundary I was about to go into something, but I don't have to.
What do you mean? Oh no, there's no
You don't
boundary.
want
I'm happy.
you don't want too much drama, so I'm maybe I was about to create
No,
some for you.
well that's okay.
No,
I welcome the drama you bring because I think if you're bringing it up, then there might be something there that I'm not seeing, and so I welcome it. No, there's no boundary.
hmm. No, this is something that came up here is, this um it seems like, at least, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like there is this tendency to um protect something, um to fear vulnerability, especially around other men and your son, to, not m- maybe it would be okay to just be open about, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah. No,
Don't
I
try to
think
be something else.
yeah, yeah. No, I think I'm pretty open about that at this point. It's uncomfortable and it's a little bit weird for me, but at one of the planning dinners with all the fathers and the sons together, it wasn't like I announced it to the group, but like I spoke to one other guy and I was just like, things are a little bit weird for me right now. Like I'm going through a divorce and I don't have a lot of stuff, but I want to contribute in whatever way I can. And, you know, the response from this guy was pretty supportive. He's like, yeah, my wife told me that like that was happening and it's okay. This is your first time going on a camping trip like this. Like you don't have to worry about it. And he was like, my wife has threatened to divorce me plenty of times. And, it's one of those things that I feel still feels a bit awkward for me.
Mhm.
But I think that
Have you
I'm at
gone
the
into
point.
why?
Why?
What,
Uh,
yeah, why? What about it is awkward?
I mean, I think there's the vulnerability that I have and that I feel more comfortable with, but it's also a little bit out of consideration for the other f- people who are acquaintances of mine and just recognizing the possibility. It's like they might not want to get into a super vulnerable conversation right now. It's so there's a little bit of hesitation there. That's always just like, I guess, trying to assess like what kind of conversation are we having right now? Like what kind of conversation are we ready for? And it's
But
almost
that can
certainly
only,
conditioning. Hmm.
yeah, and that's fine, but you know, to 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 that will be decided in a moment. Like
Yeah.
that, if that kind of opportunity will be presented, it will be presented, and there will be a feeling of being safe enough to open.
Hmm.
There's nothing that needs to be assessed beforehand. That is all just
Yeah.
story, living in a future
Yeah.
imagination.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. And I think there's that feeling when I, first arrive and I'm looking at all these other men my age, and I'm just like, every single other one of these guys is married. Like they live with their kids, they live with their spouse. And there's a feeling of I'm an outsider, I'm in a different kind of situation. But, again, as you said, that's sort of, I don't know, that's like a fear that rise up a feeling of like otherness. But once it's recognized as this is a thought that's coming up or this is just something that's arising in the moment, and I'm paying attention a little bit to like, okay, well, what else is in this moment right now? Like, what's happening? Generally, that will relax, you know. I'll
Mm.
find some kind of flow of, well, this is the conversation. Now we're talking about supplies. And, now we're talking about, how our kids are eating. And, it's just, again, like those things are easier for those types of fears and stories are a little bit easier for me to let go of once they're seen as stories. So,
Yeah, I mean, intensity in the body, seemingly at least, is usually what makes it so tempting to go into the mind and believe
mhm,
the stories, right?
yeah. I would
Um,
say I'm still not very good at sensing the body, but I can at least usually recognize the stories when they come up, which I don't know, feels useful, It feels like progress to me, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it.
so
So
you
I'll take it.
you're not familiar with your own body experience when something feels vulnerable or perhaps threatening?
I would say my experience of it is still it's much more mental than it is like felt in the body, at least sort of how I experience it. Occasionally I will notice a story that comes up, I'm thinking about the future. I'm thinking about, some alternative reality or some hypothetical situation. And when I recognize that that's what's happening, it's like, oh, I'm thinking,
Mm.
sort of the attention goes more to what's in the moment now. And a lot of times it's like, okay, well, sensation is here and it'll be feeling the sensations. There's usually nothing very remarkable about them, nothing really too interesting. And then it'll be like, okay, well, what's happening right now in sounds and hearing? And I'll kind of just do that until another thought captures me, which is, sometimes a short amount of time, sometimes it's longer, but it almost always happens. And then the same thing. Yeah.
Mm. Have you ever experienced just being in a situation like that without focusing attention on either sensation or thought, that you just relax the sensation, kind of like it's it can be experienced just like an openness. Focus is the focus is not narrowed into some specific thing.
Um, uh, yeah, well,
Kind of
not
feels like
really.
you're not paying attention, but
Yeah.
that's not really what's happening.
Yeah. I think that's not something I've done very much recently, partly because it might be just a fear or story, but like I I'll usually get caught up in thought. Wait, if I'm
Mm.
just like, all right, well, just relax. Like I have a hard time, I would say, relaxing. And so that's why, that's kind of why the practice I have is in the form that it's in right now, where, it's like I notice I'm
So
thinking, all right, sensations, whatever.
how is that experience? You say that you you have a tendency to not relax. So
Mm.
when you're not relaxing, how is that experience if you're only mostly experiencing thought? Or is it a bodily experience?
Usually it's a mental experience. And the mental experience, the thought that comes up is just like, I'm not doing the right thing right now. There's something else I should be doing. I'm not in the right place right now. I'm wasting time. And I've noticed that it comes up the most when I'm playing board games with my neighbors,
Mhm.
which is something that I try to do just to be, social and, have people in my life. But, we did that this evening and it was still there where I actually expressed it to them where I was like, I have a hard time like relaxing. And I think it's because, and none of these people had children, so this maybe wasn't the best audience, but I was like, I think once I had kids, I was so used to this feeling of like, I need to be taking care of them. Like it's just like I don't know how to relax anymore because uh I just haven't done relaxed in that way in a while. The last thing that I'm worried about is trying to win this game. this board
I,
game.
I I think I get what you mean, but I'm also confused because you say it's a mental experience, but you keep referencing back to um, a feeling and
Yeah.
not being able to relax.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Well, I guess, you know, it, so that's kind of an emotion then, where it's a mix of a sensation and a thought. Is that,
Well, it doesn't, I'm not so interested in kind of categorizing it or something. I'm more interested in just you being familiar with the experience um,
mm,
outside of thought that that you're pointing to right now. Because
mm,
the value in that is, I think that maybe you're not so much in contact with it as you say, but um, I think that usually there is a feeling that kind of drives the movement into thought because
mm,
you you either consciously or unconsciously want to move away or solve the feeling.
yeah,
So that's kind of what makes that movement sticky is the avoidance of what's here in terms of felt
yeah.
experience.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. And I think that, yeah, I think that you might be right that there's a sensation that I would kind of describe as restlessness.
Yeah,
Um, Yeah, but I guess I've just quickly always put this label on it, this thought label of like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm in the wrong place.
yeah,
But the sensation underneath it really is a feeling of like restlessness, of almost nervous energy.
yeah. And can you see if you can just be with the restlessness, so to speak? Not
Mhm.
drill your focus into it, but just let it be there without running into thought,
Yeah.
without escaping into what you should and shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm capable of doing that. And, I think it's funny, I'm relating this story to you. Uh, But it's not like my whole evening was ruined because I was a nervous wreck the whole time. This was just like a prominent feature of my evening that I can remember. And like the rest of the evening was also fine, but it was essentially unremarkable. So on some level, I was able to be with the feeling and not feel like there's a huge problem. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
since this is coming up,
Mm,
I sense that there's something there for you to look at more closely and not just stamp it as interesting and move on.
Hmm.
I'm if I, I can't really know if I understand what you're saying, but what comes up here is this restless sensation that I was forced to face really early on, and after I had my burnout, so to speak, collapse, um, where this sensation was always, I found out, you know, with time, that this sensation was always at the root of um, feeling like I needed to do something else, like I need to do something productive.
Yeah.
And the more familiar I got with that, and the more my situation forced me not to be able to do that, um, there was a there was just a severance between, you know, a severance. It was like a cutting of the connection of that feeling moving into thought about needing to do. It was just a feeling happening, so to speak. But I had to stay with it a lot.
Yeah.
For me, it was months because the
Yeah.
conditioning here was so deeply programmed to um, feel worthy through being productive,
Yeah.
which is
I
just a
mean,
story, of course, and a belief, but it wasn't seen until I was forced to look at it.
yeah, I mean, I can definitely relate to that. I think that's conditioning that runs very deeply for me too, and it's particularly, I think, around um, the topic of fatherhood and you know, and so I've told you about sort of like I've got times when the mood is okay, and I've got times when the mood is pretty bad, and since moving out of the house and being in this apartment away from my kids for a lot of the time, yeah, that feeling is always there. And when the mood is bad, when I'm, depressed or whatever, that feeling is just nonstop for, I mean, the memory of it now is just like unbearable nonstop for days.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of resistance to it. There's no question about that. But yeah, I would say that's kind of the main, what you're describing, which is this feeling of I need to be doing something to be worthy, and I am unable to do it. I'm not allowed to do it, basically. Unable to do it. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
feeling. And yeah, it's a hard one.
So can you see that because you have this interpretation of the feeling, this belief that is tied to worthiness, that ties productivity to worthiness, and this feeling tied to that movement, so to speak,
Mhm.
um, that unless that is challenged again and again, that will just continue to be um, a movement. The nervous system will never get the chance to learn that it's safe and has nothing to do with being worthy or unworthy if you keep playing the same story.
Hmm.
So the animal so to speak, the body never gets the chance to learn that it's something else than what you've been playing your whole life.
Yeah. Well, the really interesting thing about the dynamic with my moods, which you might have some insight on, is, when the mood is good, I feel like I can see it. And, it's just like, well, I can't be with my boys right now, but I know that, our relationship is good. I know that they love me and I love them, and they know that I love them. So there's nothing to worry about here. I need to be respectful of my ex-wife's boundaries. But otherwise, I'm gonna see them as much as I can. Like I feel I can get to a place where the situation feels okay. But then when I'm having a depressive episode, an unbearable feeling. It's like I just keep in my mind. It's just like I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do right now. Like there's and it goes. It's the disorienting thing about it is like within the span of a month, I'll go back and forth between those extremes like 2 or 3 times. And so
Mm.
even when I'm feeling good about it, I know that that's not gonna like I know better than to say like, well, I figured it out. This is how it's gonna stay. In the back of my mind, there's also a little bit of the story like in a week or two, I'm gonna be feeling like absolute shit about this. And probably.
Mm.
And so I don't know what to
Do you
do
see
with
that
all
there
that.
is a story before that also? Like there's a story about how things should be, how
You mean
how
consistency? That experience should be consistent.
well, not only that, well, yes, that's also baked in it, but not only that, like uh, there is this if if I don't experience what I want to or think I should be experiencing, there is depression. So you
Hmm.
kind of had you kind of what when you were telling this, it kind of sounded like the depression was the source of um
Yeah.
it, but what I'm saying is that the story before that is what's causing the depression. That
Hmm.
you're trying to fit life as it happens into a box of how you think it should be, so to speak.
Hmm. Well, I'm not sure that I can see exactly what the point you're making here, but I will say that you're definitely correct in your assessment of how I feel. Like to me, it's like the depression happens and that changes the lens through which I see the world.
Yeah,
Things that don't bother me or that I know are not actually important become these huge problems that I can't get out of my mind.
yeah,
And so to me, it feels like almost something physiologic where it's just, I've had my hormones checked and stuff because I'm just like, I have no explanation for how all of a sudden all these things that never bothered me before seem like they're disastrous. And so that's kind of my main concept of how this all works.
mm,
And I think you're suggesting that there's a story before that I may not be seeing. And I guess I'm saying all this to confirm that, yeah, I don't think I see it.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
that's why we're exploring it. So
yeah.
let's say just even if you're not aware of it now, let's say there is a story or a frame of how you want life to be. Like you would want to live with your sons. Perhaps you would want to still be married. Perhaps you would want to not be lonely at times or something like that. That's kind of the outset. And when it isn't like that, and when you start feeling lonely or you start missing your sons or something, it doesn't fit that pre-story that you have,
Yeah.
and so you become depressed. And
Hmm.
so you're not accepting life as it's happening. There is a
Hmm.
judgment of it being wrong, that it should be different. And that doesn't necessarily need to be 100% conscious. But now that we're
Yeah.
talking about it and presenting it as a possibility, um, there what can happen is that, there can be a question of, am I accepting this moment as it is right now and every moment,
Yeah.
instead of automatically going into thoughts about whatever comes up and making that the focus of the cause of your problems or the feelings. Like, this is why I'm depressed.
Yeah. Hmm. I mean, I'll say that, there is for sure sort of a preference or sort of like an archetype where I'm like, I want to be around my sons as much as possible. I want to have a good relationship with them. There is for sure a part of me that's like, and I don't want to do it alone. I don't want to be the only person like supporting and taking care of these boys. Like, I want to have a partner as well.
Mhm.
But I guess the thing that's kind of standing out to me is that there are times when I feel okay about the situation, including, I would say, right in this moment where, I see that I have a preference to have a partner and be raising my boys and spending a lot of time with them. But I see it as a preference, and that, my current situation is, if there's not a problem with it, there's even maybe some good things about it. Um, so at times I guess accept the situation, and then, 2 weeks from now, for instance, there's a good chance that I'll be just hurting badly, like barely able to get myself off the ground because I feel so worthless and incapable of doing anything. And I guess I would have a hard time saying, like, oh, well, what brought on these feelings of depression is me not wanting to accept the situation as it is. At least my concept of it, the thing that really feels true for me is that I'm depressed, and that is why I cannot accept the situation. I can't accept it. Like, there's so many situations that I don't feel like I can accept when I'm depressed that usually don't bother me. And so that was part of my reasoning behind like actually getting like my hormones checked, and like it I was just like, this feels so primary. Like, the mood
Yeah.
feels so primary to all the thoughts that I'm, wondering if there is something physiologic about it, which so far, hasn't turned up anything. And I'm also willing to accept that, there may not be a physiologic basis. It may just be, something that happens. I don't understand it at all, really.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear, at least from my perspective, I'm not trying to fix your depression or make it go away.
Hmm.
Um, that would also be try to control the
Right.
experience,
Yeah.
but more about um, seeing that um, depression often, like, let's say you take your feeling of depression being primary. Let's say that that is right. Um, what it does in that moment is that whatever thoughts come up is just amplifying those thoughts, right? And it's usually the thoughts, the thoughts that come up during a depression is usually thoughts that might need to fix what I'm feeling. So, for example, it could be, oh, if I just had, my family here or something like that, I wouldn't feel as shitty. So in
Hmm.
that sense, the depression is primary for those thoughts, but what I was pointing to is what happens before the depression. And I don't want you to think up a story about that now, but perhaps become curious around that the next time it happens.
Hmm. Okay. That's curious for me because I usually, well, you mean chronologically what happens before the depression, or do you mean like what's underneath the depression in the moment? Well, I don't know if there's even a difference. So, so can you just elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that?
Um, well, I mean, like when you put it like that, I would say it's more aligned chronologically, where I just
Hmm.
mean that um, if there is any belief about what life should look like and that um, it doesn't look like that is what
Hmm.
caused the depression, and that can fluctuate like um, these things are in constant movement, so it's not like
Hmm.
um, how do I say that how so let's say something happens at work, somebody pisses you off or hurts you or something, and you kind of brush it off, but it still kind of sticks in your experience, even though you kind of move on. It still is coloring some of your experience for the rest of the days, for example, right? And but that's not in you don't have that in your conscious awareness the whole time. You just go about your day, you continue your day, but still feeling slightly something from that experience.
Hmm.
Um, Later, that can kind of color the experience of, for example, a thought of missing your children, like two completely different, separated, seemingly um, thought experiences. But this first thought or experience from work is coloring the thought about missing your children. And so then that gets more intense, which then can spiral off into, well, I should be able to be with my children now. Why am I not with my children? What are they doing? And then, from there, you're off into the races, down the rabbit hole into depression.
Hmm.
And overlapping all of that is a belief that that shouldn't happen. Even though it's
You
not
mean the
conscious,
depression?
it's like, no, but even the
Hmm.
whole thing of being pissed off at work, being missing your children, not being with them, everything that happened that did happen, so it couldn't have happened otherwise, shouldn't have happened in some sense,
Hmm.
which can lead to, for example, a depression.
Yeah.
So it's
Well, yeah.
yeah. So I don't want to get too technical about it, but I just want you to look.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm definitely open to the investigation, but based on my, memory of how it's been in the past, um, basically what happens is like I'm doing reasonably well, sort of as I am in this moment, where, I'm able to see thoughts as thoughts and kind of, move with experience, sort of move in the moment. And then I'll start, over the course of like a day or two, I'll realize like, oh, I'm starting to have nightmares. I'm starting to have nightmares and I'm waking up, early in the morning with sweats or something like that. Or I'll notice, I don't have much of an appetite. Like food doesn't look good to me. And then over those 2 days when I'm noticing these things, I'm kind of like, oh, I know what's happening. Like this is familiar to me. I'm about to hit a depression. That's kind of my experience, my remembered experience of it. So it's not, I don't consciously think like, oh, here's a situation that I don't like. It's more just
Yeah.
like, what's happening now? Oh, my sleep is disturbed in this way that I've experienced before, and my appetite is impacted in this way that I've experienced before. And at that point, there are thoughts, sort of fearful thoughts, but around what's happening in the moment and what it means for the future. And usually, like the thought is, I'm about to be just a really kind of much less functional and much less easy to be around person for the next week or so. And so it's almost a feeling like, oh, I'm about to be depressed and I'm not really going to be able to get anything done, which sort of sucks. So I
Yeah, so
don't
it
know
shouldn't
that.
be like that.
Yeah. I mean, I there's resistance to the situation for sure. And part of it, it just feels like, for that week, I'm just a walking apology to everyone around me, where it's just like, I'm so sorry that you have to interact with me right now. Like I'm a total piece of shit or whatever. But
Oh,
but yeah, I
that's
mean that's
it's so
something that I
much in that. So
yeah,
much to go in that. So
right,
so
right.
uh, well, first of all, there is this core belief that there is a you who can be any different, that there is a you there that is in a certain way, that there is an image that you are. And if you're
Mhm.
not feeling or behaving like that, then you're in conflict with yourself.
Right. The expectation that I should show up consistently. And
Yeah,
that's definitely there. Like that's a
yeah.
value that I have where this
Do
like
you see how that locks you into a prison?
yeah, I do. I mean that's kind of really the source of the resistance behind my depressive episodes is like it's almost like, well, my friends or my coworkers are going to be wondering what's wrong with me because I'm not showing up the way that I usually do. But at this
This is
point,
what I,
everybody
yeah,
knows me well enough to know that this happens, and I'm,
but that
reasonably
doesn't
open
help
about
you,
it.
right? Because you still
I
believe that
mean,
you should be different.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's still resistance to it. I definitely have a preference for feeling better and being more, productive, energetic. But I
Yeah,
think lately
that's
it's
understandable,
mhm.
right? But why do you not feel better. The reason you don't feel better, I'm assuming, is because, at least largely because you're not fitting the image of how you should be.
Sure. Well, the way I remember the feeling is mostly just like I'm it's the feeling of like I'm not uh, it's almost just like I need to survive these next few days. That's all I need to do. And I
Yeah,
really can't expect too much more from myself, even if other people do. But I know that other people do. And it's just like not a great situation for any of us, in a way. That's kind of the flavor of it, I think.
yeah, but all of that is just meaning making, interpretation. You have no idea how other people perceive you in those
Right.
moments. You don't know if they might look at you and like, oh, I see him struggling, and they're filled with compassion. You don't really know anything. So all of that
Yeah.
is just story.
Yeah, that's
And the
true.
story is also deeply rooted in the story you have about yourself
Hmm. And who I should be. Yeah.
and who you
Who I'm
should be,
supposed to be.
and what is okay to do or say or not okay to do or say. It's in that, it's it's
Yeah.
feeling embarrassed for swearing at work for the first time, or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, you know, if we just step back and just look at, okay, the stuff that we're talking about here in these meetings, at least the context that I'm operating from is um, being liberated,
Hmm.
right? And do you see that? Do you see the impossibility of liberation if you're trying to fit into something, into anything? That there cannot be liberation unless whatever is real in the moment without um, judging it as good or bad, right or wrong, that it is just what it is, that cannot happen unless those beliefs are dissolved.
Yeah. I think I do see that. Um, yeah, and I think life has been sort of showing me that with every sort of cycling of the mood, where it's just
Yeah,
like, well, here's what you are now, and there's nothing you can really do about it. And
perfect.
the resistance is there, but even like the last one I had about a week ago when I messaged you was pretty brutal. Like it was really, yeah, it was really brutal. I basically like, didn't leave the apartment and was just prostrate on the ground for, many hours.
Mm,
And it's just like, well, this is what's happening now,
yeah,
and you can have resistance to it, but that's not going to change it. And, I won't know till the next one comes, but I think it'll be a similar experience probably, where it's just like it's a teacher almost.
yes.
Yeah.
I love that you see that, because that's exactly what is happening.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
like, if I'm going to make a story of it, you're being ground grounded down to the bones. All the
yeah.
stories and all the beliefs and interpretations and everything is just being dissolved through life showing you in that way. And
Yeah.
that's how this works. It's not a doing.
Yeah.
It's not something we do through effort. It's just life experiencing, so to
Yeah.
speak. It can feel like life putting us through an experience, but even that us or that me sense will eventually dissolve
Yeah.
in its own time.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I guess there's, for me, it's sort of an interesting experience because a lot of, stories I hear or whatever, or I believe is like somebody's living life, they go through a really challenging time, and then on the other side, they've achieved some kind of insight. And for me, it's just like, it feels like every 2 weeks I get dunked, like, and then I'm okay, and then I get dunked again, and just like over and over again. So there's
Yeah, but
almost this expectation. Yeah.
yeah, I was
Of
gonna say,
Yeah.
stability.
yes, so exactly. There's an expectation that, one time, two times should be enough. That
Hmm.
now I deserve my insight. And also I want to say that, these things usually repeat until you see what you're supposed to see, so to
Yeah.
speak, until it's recognized that um, I'm trying to be someone.
Right. Yeah. There's an expectation that I'm holding on to about how this is supposed to go.
Yeah. And how you're
But
supposed to be, that you're supposed to be a someone in a particular way.
yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. It's still there for sure. And I guess it'll be there until I get I turn into enough of a mush that I let go of that. But yeah, it's an interesting experience for sure. Uh,
Yeah. And, I just want to share that a lot of what you're sharing feels deeply familiar here.
mm,
Uh,
well,
So
yeah,
I don't mean I'm not trying to make you feel better, but it's like it's not um wrong.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry to say that I do find that a little bit reassuring. If only to know that somebody else has had this experience. That it's yeah.
So if I give you a frame where you can kind of s- uh, perhaps it could be helpful for the mind to give you some space, so to speak, is
Hmm.
if you can see this through the frame of the self dying, that the person you once thought you were, the scaffolding of that construct is it's in a death process.
Yeah.
And it's not a lights on, lights off kind of process. It's a slow peeling off your skin process.
Yeah.
And it's painful, but
Yeah.
we don't need to try to um, make it something that it's not. It's painful and it's disorienting and it's um, all kinds of different labels we can slap on it.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I mean, even like the spiritual pursuit, for me, it was almost like the ego or the mind was suicidal in a way, like the mind
Yeah,
was like, this is unbearable. I want to make myself go away, you know?
yeah,
And but of course, like to even hold that view, there's a self that's saying like, well, this is going to solve the problem. you know?
Yeah.
And that's like the hidden self that doesn't realize it's going to be torn apart.
Yes.
And then when it starts to be torn apart, it's like, oh, this is also very painful. Like it's like the beliefs that are very close to you that you didn't
Yeah.
realize were the you falling
Yeah.
apart. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's like you go into it thinking it's something, and then you're in it, and it's too late to go back, and you're realizing that it's not what you thought it was, but now you can't go back.
Yeah. Well, so the tricky thing then for me is that even when it's not what I thought it was, I'm still kind of like, you know, I'm still going for it. You know what I mean? Where I'm still just like, well, yeah, this is good. This is progress in a way, which is, still kind of an interpretation, but
Yeah.
it's there, you know?
Until it's not.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's an interesting conundrum to sort of wrestle with that and just be like, well, I have this expectation, I have this interpretation that's here, and, and just to not necessarily see it as a good thing or a bad thing, but just as a thing that's happening. And even like the hope that, one day maybe it'll be gone and I'll achieve liberation, but recognizing that that is also just a thought or an interpretation that's there until it's not.
Exactly. That the one
Well,
that thinks it will achieve anything won't be there to achieve it, so to speak,
well,
because it's just a thought.
yeah.
And
I guess for me, it's like I don't need to worry about what's going to happen to it. I
yeah,
just need to see that it's here now and recognize that that's not necessarily a problem or a good thing, you know?
yeah,
So, so yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. It's weird, but fine. Mm.
sounds good to me.
Yeah, I have no complaints at the moment. Well, it looks
Thanks
like
for sharing.
everybody else has abandoned the chat. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're like 3 hours into or something if you guys started. I came a
Y-
bit late, but
Yeah, yeah. It was one of those things where I put it on and it was like familiar voices talking about this will help me drift off to sleep. And then it sort of did the opposite, but that's fine, I'm pleased with the outcome anyway. So,
yeah,
mm. Tim, you
stuff.
unmuted. Did you have something you wanted to say? Oh, there you
No,
are.
I don't know why I'm muted. I was going to say goodbye if the call is ending, but just briefly, there was a lot in what you said that I could remember from my past, similar incidents without the diagnosis that you clearly had, particularly with the other parents or the fathers and that sort of thing. But I didn't interrupt because it would be going into storyland. But I can relate with the story and the remedy, as Marius has been mentioning, is for me, it was realizing that I'm not any of that. And if occasionally I forget, that's absolutely fine. There is
Mhm.
no getting there. There is no future that will be better with me knowing more. I think that's all
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's such a deep one for me. It's a hard one to let go of, right? Like
Mm.
I'm a relatively new father, and I think there's a lot of history and baggage that I carry with that role, but it's one of those things I can't imagine ever letting go of. But
Well, I did, and I'm now an old
yeah,
father. It
yeah,
could happen very soon for anyone like you. You know, it's I was just really stuck in that, and that's just the way it was for me here. That's all.
Yeah.
It'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tim, can I ask if you no longer feel like a connection to your child or children? Like, how has that changed for you?
No,
What does it
I
look like
feel
now?
I feel more connected, but in a very different way. Which I can't explain. I feel a kind of unity with them. Is the only way I can put it. Two of them are still
Thanks.
living back here. Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
Mm.
So you don't feel like they have nothing to do with you or some stuff like that. In other words,
No,
yeah,
not at all. No.
it didn't go in that
But
direction.
I don't think in terms of, well, I mean, I do on one level, yes, father, son's daughter, but I don't feel that role in the same way. It's kind of, I can't really describe it. I'm sorry, I would if I could, but I can't.
No, I hear you. You feel the connection without the role or responsibility or like ideas
Yeah,
or beliefs about it. Like,
yeah, yeah, that's it really, yeah.
thanks.
Mm, okay. What happened to Vince? Did he hand the call over to you, Marius?
Yeah, I think
All right.
I got a message from him before the meeting asking if I could take the call. So I think he had some other plans, and I answered him too
Oh,
late.
okay. Okay.
So I just
If
came
I
in. Yeah.
if I sent him a message in the chat, he won't get that when we log off, will he? Does
He will
Zoom let you
get
do
it
that?
in if he logs on to the um to his back end, so to speak, and checks for messages, he will get it, but it
Okay.
would need him to check it.
Okay, I can post it in an email. It's okay. I've got the content elsewhere. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna leave now, so I don't know what happens if I don't think I'm a host. So
Oh, I thought that's what I asked if he'd hand it over. Did this one
oh
will
yeah,
run?
no.
No,
No,
No, I
I,
don't think
I,
we
I'm
you,
not
know.
sure.
you have no control.
I have
Yeah.
no control.
I think Vince is
No
just
pun.
a
No pun.
computer, an unattended computer right now. You
It's
know,
like
Yeah.
he's like asleep or
yeah,
something.
yeah. Well,
It was nice
yeah.
being with you all.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Thanks.
it's great
Just
Bye.
talking to you guys all.
see you later. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye. So who's? Well, we're still here,
What
but
remains when all of the enlightened people disappear or dissolve? We are still here, ever present. Let's turn it
yeah.
into a poetry.
Well, no enlightened people here, as far as I'm concerned, or the people who've left. It's really as a concept. I mean, that word has just become very shitty for me. It's just a word. It's been so misused, but I'm not going to go off on one about it. I like awake, if I had to say anything. It's just, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go shopping now, I think. Get some food.
All the best.
Take
Great,
care.
Tim.
See you next time. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye
If I
bye.
can just, okay.